Uh-huh. I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods, yeah. One in particular, I'm just a messenger, let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you, you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box. And you cannot compare them at all, so don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Yeah. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Woo. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
What is going on, everybody? Today is a memoriam for everybody who had Zeke in their lineups and are likely going to lose this week, like yourself. 2 points. Come on, man. Seriously, it's so fucking frustrating. Anyways, two, I guess, okay games yesterday. They were somewhat entertaining for different reasons in the Texans and the Lions and the Washington football team and the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to recap that and preview the rest of the Week 12 fantasy football slate. Dennis and Matt are here with me. How you guys doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, actually. I had, it was just me, the wife, and the kids yesterday. I got to say, in my 55 years, it was probably the best Thanksgiving I've ever had.
Very nice.
I had a pretty good Thanksgiving, too. We saw my parents for a while. I watched pieces of the game enough to realize that both the home teams failed to realize it was Thanksgiving and they were supposed to get a home team bump. So,
well, I mean, both the home teams they're not great. They're not great. I think that's just the nice way of putting that analysis. And I was right yesterday. I picked both winning teams, so I'm cool with it. Keeping my picks lead going right now. All right, let's talk about the early morning game there. The Detroit Lions losing to the Texans 41-25 for Houston. Watson 33 points, Duke Johnson 17, Will Fuller 13, and Brandon Cooks Will Fuller 35, Brandon Cooks 13. Of course, none of us thought Duke Johnson was going to do anything this week, and he goes off. What was your guys' takeaway from that? Was David Johnson on the IR one more week at least, right?
I think this is his third week on the IR.
Okay,
right?
so
yeah.
Johnson can technically come back next week. What do you guys think about Duke Johnson's performance? Just this overall Texans game here against the Lions.
I mean, it was more of it just as a play that happened, that touchdown. It's not like that's not something that's part of their regular game plan, or we'd have seen it before week 12 probably. So I think the situation just happened to open up. That was one of the routes on the play, and he just happened to be the guy that was open. So I don't know if I'm. I mean, he's good at that.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to say, most coaches, I'd like to think, having a weapon that does that. Would probably incorporate it into the game plan a little more frequently than Houston does.
Yeah,
but
you would think.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't do much as a receiver, as a rusher, only 37 yards. But I think the reason that we had been fading him was because something happened to you. Was because he hadn't been catching anything, and of course he gets 3 receptions for 43 and the touchdown. As soon as I saw that, I was like,
oh, never mind.
Yeah.
I didn't have him in my lineup anyways. DJ Chark just got ruled out of Sunday's game. I was not happy about that. But he's not in the lineup that I thought he was in. Well, it was, Zeke got me 2 points. We'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, I mean, it was a great catch. Obviously, Will Fuller's the one who has the big day. It's kind of surprising. This is what we've been waiting for Will Fuller for, the past 4 years now? right? He wasn't a first round draft pick, so 3 or 4 years when he got drafted out of Notre Dame, couldn't stay healthy. We saw the flashes. He's finally kind of putting it all together in his free agent year as well. So it'll be interesting to see if the Texans hold on to him if he goes to another team. But he looks like he could be kind of a league winner for as late as he was going in drafts right now. And then Brandon Cooks as well. I think Brandon Cooks, he's a guy I saw get picked up off waiver wires in some of my redraft leagues about 3-4 weeks ago. He's been kind of like the Corey Davis of the second half here. He's been averaging 13 points a game just for a flex option or a wide receiver 3. That's not bad right there. So this Houston offense, for the most part, has really kind of come alive since the firing of Bob. Offenses that have not really come alive here is the Detroit Lions the past couple weeks. Shutout last week, just 25 points this week. Stafford, 16 points. Peterson, 17. Marvin Jones, 11. Kerryon Johnson, 11. Marvin Jones, 10. TJ Hawkinson, 13. The Lions have kind of faded from the race with this loss. What do you guys think happens? I guess I should say next year. What do you think happens this year, at the end of this year? Is it cleaning the entire house? How deep do you think that goes? What do you guys think?
Well, they have a new chairwoman, and I don't know how involved she's going to be in decisions like upper level team management. Is she just a figurehead? If so, who does Quinn report to? Who's the team president? At some point, the team isn't playing for Patricia, and maybe. I get they didn't have Galladay, they didn't have Swift. The running game actually performed fairly well yesterday, but I guess the way I see it is that could Swift have maybe done more? They gave 25 carries to Peterson and Kerryon Johnson. So if you give 17 or 18 of those to Swift, is he going to get more than 55, 65 yards? I mean, Johnson had a decent game. He caught 4 passes for 52 and ran 11 times for 46. I feel like he's probably the guy he's going to get one of those sort of extensions that is like the 3 or 4, 2 year, $6 million, $7 million extensions at the end of his rookie deal, because I think he fits in real well with what DeAndre Swift does. I can't believe that Patricia hasn't been fired yet. But again, I took a look at their coaching staff, and nobody on their coaching staff jumps out to me as having had previous head coaching experience. Maybe somebody had it at the college level, but it's not like Houston. They can fire Bob and institute Romeo Crennel in there, who's had a couple stops as a head coach and been a long time coordinator in the NFL. Patricia didn't build his staff like that, and so I don't think that's something they can really do there. So they may have to ride it out.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to see a lot of wholesale changes this year, but they were already talking about preseason Stafford possibly being gone after this year. I would think it's the two interesting cases to me, which we'll talk about them in a minute, is Detroit and Atlanta, where you have kind of veterans and you have a core that on paper looks like it should be able to compete, just hasn't come together. I don't know that the problems for Detroit are all about Stafford, but it seemed like they were thinking about moving on from him already. What are they going to do? Obviously, they made a change a couple of years ago. We talked about from Jim Caldwell saying they thought they should be able to go deep in the playoffs, and they have not even looked like a competitive team since then. So they need some kind of shakeup in that organization. Maybe changing the coaching staff will be enough. There have been some reports that people, we've obviously heard from people who left Detroit that weren't real pleased with the culture and the atmosphere there. And we've heard from some people that maybe that's the reason they're not getting more talent, but something's not working.
Yeah, I would be surprised if Quinn and Patricia are back. It kind of seemed like beforehand. I know, as Dennis mentioned, they've kind of got the new leader in charge of the football priorities, or whatever you want to, the football side of that operation. But I know it really seemed like in the offseason that Martha Ford, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, really kind of hinted.
Martha.
that really kind of hinted that if those two don't get it together, this will be their last year. And so I obviously don't think they're getting it together. So this will be their last year. I was talking with Felix Sharp, who's one of the writers at the Dynasty Nerds as well. I do the Debbie Debate show with him. He was a big Jim Caldwell fan. And he kind of brought up, he's like, why did they fire Caldwell again? And I was like, because there's
Martha Ford is the longtime owner. Sheila Ford Hamp is the chairman now.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, I said the same thing. I think Matt, you and me talked about it on like a Thursday episode about how like Jim Caldwell was actually had a winning record his last year in Detroit, took him to the playoffs and got fired. So doesn't make much sense. As for the Stafford thing, because I have seen a lot of people saying that they might move on from him. I don't see how they do it until 2022. I mean, his dead cap hit would be $47 million this year and $24 million next year. That's a big cap hit to take. And I don't know who trades for him with that contract either.
I mean, you got to look around and kind of see where does he fit? Who has the need? San Francisco could use somebody like him.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how much cap room they have.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, let's be real. The cap isn't that just an illusion?
Somewhat, I guess. Yeah.
So let's see. San Francisco could be a fit. Chicago. I don't think they'd trade him to Chicago in division.
And the Lions have been just good enough that they might screw themselves in terms of getting one of the top. I mean, if you can't get a top quarterback, let's say you end up pick 6 to 10. I know you said this is a deeper quarterback field, but if you're not top 3, Stafford's by far not their only problem. You try to make – I think what's the most damning to me about Patricia is he was the defensive coordinator for a pretty good defense in New England, and that's why they came. And they've had no defense since he's been there.
Yeah.
I mean, you gave up 41 points.
Yeah.
What do you think about Stafford going to Denver?
I mean, I'd probably take him right now. I don't think we have the cap either.
Trying to see. I guess I could pull that up really quick.
San Francisco, I would almost, because of Shanahan and his past, if Stafford's available and Matt Ryan's available, I bet he goes to get Ryan.
All right. So just looking forward at what is, again, this is without, certain players they may cut or take care of in this offseason, actual leaders in cap. This one is kind of surprising to me, but I guess they have a lot of players that will be coming off their total here in a minute. So you got Jacksonville at 1, the Jets at 2, the Colts at 3, the Patriots at 4. That might be an interesting fit. They have, they're the one that I'm kind of surprised to see up at the top there. Washington, but I think they seem like they're really kind of set on bringing Alex Smith back. Then the Bengals, Dolphins, Cowboys, Chargers, Buccaneers, and then Broncos are at 11 with $31 million. So those are kind of the top ones right there. There's the top 10. And then, like I said, them right there at 11. So there's a couple teams there. I mean, I don't think Miami does it. Dallas, Chargers. I don't think the Bucs do it with Brady there. So really, what are you looking at? I don't think Jets do it because Jets or Jags, because they're likely going to go quarterback in the draft. So you're looking at maybe the Colts if Phillip Rivers moves on. That might actually be a great landing spot. Fire up Michael Pittman and maybe Eugene Hilton will rise from the dead. So there's a couple interesting spots. It's going to be curious to see if they do decide to move on from him too, what they can get from other teams, because you are taking a big cap hit and bringing him in as well. I don't know if teams will be willing to give up a first-round pick, say, for Matt Stafford, maybe a second and something. I don't know.
I think you're probably, given he's 33 years old now or something.
Yeah.
He's had some injuries. You're probably looking at a third or fourth, maybe even a 5th round pick.
I mean, if I could get Matt Stafford for a 5th round pick, I mean, the cap hit sucks, but I mean, when I'm looking at this list, Indy seems like the perfect fit. I mean, $77 million cap room right there. I would take Stafford over Rivers in a heartbeat, and they've already got a Super Bowl team built around him. That might be a great landing spot. Sucks for all the Jacob Eason shares I picked up this year, but it'll be great for the Colts.
Honestly, it doesn't, because Eason isn't going to be ready next year.
Well,
so
maybe not, but even if they forced him out there, that's points in the Superflex league that I could use, because I don't play in very many Scott Fishbowl leagues where I'm just getting destroyed by my crappy quarterback picks there in that draft. All right. Washington beats the Dallas Cowboys last night or afternoon, I guess technically, 41-16. Alex Smith, 8 points. Antonio Gibson, 36. Terry McLaurin, 16. And Logan Thomas, 13. Washington is now the front runner in the NFC East. Do you see anybody catching them? Giants still can – they can tie them if they win this week, right?
Yeah. And did Washington beat the Giants, or did the Giants beat Washington?
That's a good question.
I think Washington beat the Giants, right? Because I think they beat the Eagles. They have 2 against the Cowboys, 1 against the Eagles.
All their wins have come inside the division. Wouldn't be surprising.
No, because they won last week. Wasn't a division
game. The Bengals. No, they lost 23-20. That was the first game that Smith came in. Remember, he threw that pick right at the end when they were driving down the field. That's what it was.
Yeah, so that actually probably means the Giants would go on top of the
if they win. But don't they have a tough matchup this? Oh,
they play the Bengals.
They're gonna win. Never mind.
I mean, I like Washington probably of the group of teams right now. I kind of thought whoever won yesterday was going to have a good track to getting in, and we know Washington beat the Eagles earlier this season, could do it again. I think they're probably better than the Giants, but we'll have to see.
They lost to the Giants twice. I'm sorry. I'm looking at their schedule now. And more so, Washington is screwed. Let me just read their schedule for you really quick. Steelers, probably a loss. 49ers, I could see them possibly winning that game. But then Seahawks and then Panthers, Eagles, which I think both are toss-ups too. So, but Steelers and Seahawks, I would almost say are 2 losses right out the gate.
What's the Giants?
Giants here. I'll pull it up. But see, that's the thing. Now they have to get that 1 win over them because the Giants have Washington doubled up Dallas. Giants have doubled them up. So they have to get that 1 extra win.
Well, I think we can all agree with it that Dallas is now out of it because they've monster screwed themselves.
So Giants is just as bad, actually. Seahawks, Cardinals, Browns, Ravens, Cowboys. So neither one has a very easy schedule going down the stretch. I actually think Washington has more winnable games out of that than the Giants do.
Well, and Washington has a better team.
Yes.
I mean, if we're being objective here, Washington has a better defense. Yeah, they give up some plays occasionally. They have some breakdowns, but that defensive line makes the back 7 that much better.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're the number 1 rated pass defense going in. I couldn't name you outside of Darby. I can't name you one other player in that secondary. So
I that's why when we on Tuesday when we did our show, that's why I picked the Washington to win the division. I just think Smith is a smart player. He'll make the occasional turnover, but he's generally fairly cautious. Gibson, big miss by me. I expected that at some point next year he would, be RB in the RB2 range somewhere. I didn't expect him to come on like he did this year. I felt like just given the lack of experience, it was going to take him time to get comfortable with the workload. So I was wrong. It's going to be a great offseason of regression for Antonio Gibson talk. I'm looking forward to that. But then you've got Terry McLaurin and then Logan Thomas at tight end. So they've got decent enough skill position weapons that as long as the offensive line plays serviceable, and then McKissick as a passing down back, and the ghost of Peyton Barber popping in there as the change of pace. So I feel like the Giants, well, they're probably going to lose this week against next week against Pittsburgh. I could see them running the table after that.
Are you fading McKissick at all? Because it seems like I was really surprised
after last night.
Yesterday, because Barber came in and got a lot.
Well, I mean, I think it's fair to say everybody was. I don't remember, just me personally, a lot of people saying Antonio Gibson was going to be good this year. Everybody was worried about the touches that he didn't get in college. So I think it's fair to say he's kind of surprised everybody. I mean, if you were one of those people who got him, late 2nd, early 3rd in rookie drafts, you're thrilled right now. I mean, I know people who got him in redrafts in the 14th round because everybody thought it. I was right there. I thought it was going to be Bryce Love once they cut Adrian Peterson. I was like, all right, let's go Bryce Love. And then no. So I think everybody missed on him. But yeah, I think for me, after what I saw yesterday, I can't. McKissick will have some value just because if they have him out there on some third downs, and Alex Smith, we know, loves to check down to the running back. But I mean, Antonio Gibson, even the past couple of weeks, has been an RB1 for fantasy, and that's just going to continue moving forward. He's much like we just mentioned with much like we just mentioned with who did I just bring up a minute ago? Was it in the other game? I don't even remember now. Oh, Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks, who got late in drafts, could be league winners. So is Antonio Gibson now at this point. Like, those guys have been just extremely good down the stretch.
Well, Gibson played 65% of the snaps, and I would expect that to continue going forward. McKissick was at 41, and the game script wasn't favorable to McKissick's game.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll be better against the Steelers.
Yeah, it could be. They'll be behind. I think Dennis froze up on us there, so
yeah.
I don't know if that was the end of his points or not. So, but yeah, I'm with you. I think that what he was saying in game script might be why we saw Antonio Gibson so much. They were definitely trying to just kind of run the clock out, because even though the final score doesn't indicate it, it was a game for the most part going into the fourth quarter. Well, like, Dallas wasn't really playing well enough to be in that game, but they were still in it for the most part up until the end there. On Dallas's side, though, Dalton 12 points, Zeke 2, Cooper 23, Michael Gallup 10, and CeeDee Lamb 7. You know, obviously, my tag right there, if you're watching live with the why does Zeke suck thing, everybody's been talking about it last night and today. What are we doing with Zeke? I mean, Pollard, he looked good for the past 2 weeks in Zeke, and then all of a sudden it's back to that guy that looked just like disinterested in playing football. Pollard looked better than him on most of his runs yesterday, in my opinion. Are you guys just fading Zeke down the stretch? Is he even worth starting?
I think he's definitely moved to the RB2 flex spot, probably. You're not rolling him out there expecting him to dominate, and part of that is the quarterback play, and part of it is the offensive line play. And you can argue, well, then he's not very good if he needs all of that. Well, I would say most running backs need to have decent blocking and decent quarterback play to reach their full potential. I like Zeke. I think he's going to be fine next year when the team gets healthy. If they can stay healthy, I don't see the Cowboys moving on from him yet, given his contract situation. But yeah, every player has a year like this. I think it's what happens the season after. Can you bounce back? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be some questions. I saw a lot of people wondering if they're going to give Tony Pollard more of a look down the stretch. I think that might be fair. That the Cowboys, in my mind, after yesterday, really have little chance of making the playoffs. Maybe you have to see who wants to actually be a part of your team. I made the joke when I posted on Twitter how many people is Jerry Jones going to fire after this turkey. That this is a case of another team. We talked about Detroit, where they fired Jim Caldwell because they thought that they needed to be better and go further, and they bring in a guy who has looked immensely worse.
Yeah.
I almost think the same things happen with Dallas. Maybe we're having a little more of an appreciation for what Garrett was doing with this team. Maybe it wasn't all coaching. Maybe there is some enigmaticness on the personalities. Their defense certainly looks much, much worse under Mike Nolan.
Yeah.
They don't look like they can do anything. And they brought in expensive pieces. They're a team that's pretty leveraged, on cap space. They still have a lot of questions. They have incredible weapons, and then you see people mock drafting for them, taking like Kyle Pitts or something. You're like, do they need another receiver? They can't block.
No.
Is it maybe they need to get some line pieces back healthy? You are right that Elliott didn't look super interested. They last week was the first time he had a run of more than 10 yards where he didn't fumble, because previously his longest run was a 20-yard one where he fumbled. You saw him fumble yesterday. Just things that you don't expect to see from him. You don't know if he hit a wall or what, but that's another contract they're going to have to think long and hard about, I would guess, because if people thought it was a little bit of a down year last year, this year's been immeasurably worse. Their whole team looks lost, though. I thought they were going to have a nice showing yesterday. That win, it seemed like they had figured something out in that win against Minnesota. Coming back home, you beat Washington at home. They actually, I think, have a more favorable schedule than either of what you read for the Giants and Washington. But they seemingly have no chance. They just put themselves in a huge hole.
Yeah, they needed to win that one. So Zeke, what is it? They can probably, I would say, get out of it in that 2023 season is the earliest without the big dead cap hit. But yeah, I saw a lot of people bringing that up yesterday. That was kind of like the dumbest contract move they've seen the Cowboys make in a while with re-signing him again. I can't say that because I think with the way their team was built, they're just not using him the way they were supposed to. And a lot of that comes down to what Dennis mentioned. You lost Dak and you've lost multiple offensive linemen as well. So, I mean, it's not like, geez,
even in that game yesterday, they have both of their tackles get hit?
Yeah, Zach Martin was out on like the second play of the offense. They had another offensive lineman, I think, went out right before him.
Well, and Martin was originally a guard that they moved out to tackle because they needed the help.
Yeah, so I don't know how much I'm blaming this on Zeke. Like, it sucks. Obviously, someone who owns him, someone who rosters him, it sucks because you wanted more, especially like I said, when you're this close to the playoffs, if you're not a secured playoff spot, 2 points is going to kill you this week more than likely. So it is what it is. I'll be interested to see what he does next year. I know a lot of people were selling high on him this year. I don't think you're going to be able to sell him for even half of what I think he's worth at the end of this year because everybody's going to try and buy low on him. So it's one of those things where now I think you just kind of have to hold him and then hope that maybe he brings back some of his value next year and then try and move him if you really want to get out of the Zeke business.
Yeah, I roster Zeke in a couple spots, and I was all on the sell Zeke train. I was successful with one of them, not successful with the other. So,
but now would be the worst time to sell him, right?
Yeah,
his value's never been lower.
I know,
preseason. But now, if you didn't make that trade, you kind of have to hold them and hope next year's better.
Right.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like, he was good at the beginning part of the year, though. He was averaging like 14, 15 points a game. He was actually pretty good. It was just Dak is just, as much as this hurts me to actually admit this, Dak is like completely just destroyed that team. He was clearly the glue that held that team together. All right, Friday preview time. We'll kick it off with the 6-4 Raiders at the 3-7 Falcons. We've got Jacobs coming in at 6, Aguilar 39, and Waller at 2. The Falcons defense has been generous. Are we expecting big day for the Raiders offense?
Well, I think the Raiders offense has looked pretty good by and large. They have their hiccups here and there. When I look at the draft they had this year, it really pains me to, see Nelson Aguilar as the guy you want to roster from that wide receiver core. That's rough.
You think it pains you? How do you think Carson Wentz feels?
Well, apparently he couldn't catch Carson Wentz's passes, so I don't know. Maybe Carr's passes spin slower or something. I like Jacobs going forward, and against Atlanta, he should be able to put up some numbers. I don't think we're in for a 20-carry Jacobs game and a 12-carry Booker game by any stretch of the imagination. But, Waller is a stud, and I think that Carr has shown he's QB 16-ish, QB 14-ish. So in super flexes, you can do a lot worse than having Carr as your second quarterback.
Yeah, he's been a very stabilizing presence, and he's been able to pass successfully when they've needed it. Those couple of games they played against the Chiefs, he's looked pretty good. Obviously, Atlanta doesn't have a lot of defense. They looked completely flat last week, so I'll be curious to see if they bounce back in any way this week, but I would expect the Raiders. So as much as it pains you this season to have to praise Dak Prescott, now for me we have to praise the Raiders. So 2020 just coming for all of our sad places.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to see if I think this is Bryan Edwards' first game back. I'm not starting him anywhere, but I'd love to see what he can possibly do in this matchup here. It's obviously a great matchup for him to come back to. I'll be interested to see what he does, but Aguilar is a guy we've been talking about for a couple of weeks. You just kind of have to figure out a way to put him in your lineup because he's been he's boom bust, but he's been a lot more boom than he has bust here lately. On Atlanta's side, we've got Ryan at 15, Gurley at 20, Ridley at 9, Jones at 22, and Hurst at 11. Can the Falcons bounce back this week? Go ahead. Sorry, I got another question, but I'll wait till you answer that.
Well, I think given the talent they have on offense, any given week they can bounce back and have a good game. But I think Gurley was missing from practice today, and he's kind of dinged up. And Julio has the hamstring, and so the Raiders' defense is pretty good. They're not, I guess they're not elite by any stretch. But if you don't have Gurley and Jones is hobbled, that's going to create some issues for Ryan. So I don't know that they're going to bounce very high if they do bounce back.
Yeah, but hopefully they'll look better than they did in the second half against the Saints. I was also going to say, as a little correction, Bryan Edwards has played the last 3 games. He appeared in week 9, 10, and 11.
What?
Edwards has played in the last 3 games.
Oh, I thought he was out. My bad.
Well, you would think he was out because he
His performance
hasn't caught a lot, but he did actually play. I went to go back to check because I was pretty sure I played him somewhere and was sad about it. But, the Falcons, the big question is, can they block any better? Because last week they were just getting murdered up front, and that really kept them from being able to run or have Ryan have enough time to find anyone. When he was connecting with Ridley, he looked okay. But I think you're right. Jones kind of banged up. I still think Gage and Olamide Zacchaeus are a little bit enigmatic. And obviously Hayden Hurst. Speaking of sad spots for you.
I know. I mean, he can't do any worse than he did last week, right? If Gurley doesn't play, who you guys firing up is, I don't even know if Ito Smith is still healthy. Is it just Brian Hill for you?
Yeah,
but that's flexish desperation kind of play. Even he might be RB3 upside, but that's about it.
I mean, I hope he's out. I'm not even lying. I'm playing a dude in one of my main dynasty leagues where I need a win. Doesn't always check his lineups much after he sets them. He's got Todd Gurley and Kalen Garbage in his lineup. So I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping he forgets to check them before Sunday, and we're going to go.
Balaj hasn't been ruled out, though, right? He's limited.
Doubtful last I saw. Yeah.
Gosh.
So Dennis is picking the Raiders, as am I. Who are you taking, Matt?
I took the Raiders too, yeah.
All right, so we're all on the Raiders. Next up, the 3-7 Chargers at the 7-3 Bills. We've got Herbert coming in at 6, Balaj at 28, Allen at 4, and Henry at 5. We've seen obviously all the reports that Eckler may be coming back. There was a lot of talk he may come back this week. I doubt it happens. I think at best we see him next week in week 13.
He's the only one that seems to be talking about coming back.
That is true.
He keeps posting video after video saying, "Hey, I'm ready. Rehab's going well. Hey, I'm ready." Yeah. And the team, "Oh, who's Austin Eckler?"
But if he does come back, say next week, do you think that Balaj has done enough to earn himself a role? Because we've seen all the other running backs are hurt outside of Balaj and Kelly. Has Balaj done enough to earn himself a role next to Eckler, or is he just kind of moved back to the bench?
I think for sure they're not going to kick him back to the practice squad because that was after his first kind of big game when it looked like Jackson he reverted back to the practice squad. It seems like he's definitely landed himself ahead of Joshua Kelly on the depth chart and probably ahead of Troy Maine Pope. They still won't have Jackson for a while. I think even when Eckler was in there, they like to mix in other running backs, and Kalen Balaj is probably a little bit bigger. It's a little bit of a blow if he ends up hurt and missing this week because I think he needs another solid week. But it might be to me, it's a little more likely to have someone is a little more likely to have a meaningful role alongside Eckler than, say, a Mike Davis and Christian McCaffrey, where we saw kind of when McCaffrey was back and going, Davis wasn't really a factor. He just comes in when McCaffrey's gone.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a little bit of work here, especially at least in week 13. I don't think they just throw Eckler out there for 80% of the snaps in his first week back. So I expect him to get worked in slowly, meaning Balazs is going to get a lot more work, but he's not a guy that I would feel comfortable playing once Eckler comes back, if I'm being honest. I think he's kind of, for fantasy-wise, he's moving back to my bench once Eckler comes back, unless I'd rather take the risk of having him on my bench and having him go off for 13, 14 points because he gets enough play than putting him in my lineup and him getting you like 4 points, and then you just kind of get screwed.
Well, I feel like he'd be super touchdown dependent for being able to be even flex worthy because even if he's coming in and getting carries and getting 30 or 40 yards, which isn't unreasonable, catching 1 or 2 passes maybe, that's not enough to make him flex worthy, especially as we're entering a season where all the teams are back playing and you don't have major buys. You'd have to hope that in that 30 and 40 yards, they put him in the goal line and he pounded his way into the end zone.
Week 12 is about to just decimate all of us. I don't know if you're seeing all these updates coming out.
I turned notifications off when we're on.
This is not good, guys. This is not good. All right.
Who else is out?
Well, I'll just save it for the games. But one thing, because it's going to be a little bit away, the Rams just closed out their thing amid a bunch of new positive tests. They just closed down their facility. We just had 3 other players. One is not ruled out, but with the injury they just specified, I don't feel like he's probably practicing. I'll just say MVS, Achilles injury, did not practice following mid-practice injury. And then you've got Salvon Ahmed has now just been ruled out as well. He will not be playing, and they don't know if they're going to be able to bring back Myles Gaskin off the IR yet. So, yeah.
Matt Breida.
Great times. On Buffalo's side, we've got Allen at 4, Diggs at 7. Buffalo is tracking to win the AFC East. What do they need to do to be contenders in the AFC?
Yeah, see, I think they're really good in their division, but if I was pressed, to me they're third at best. I might have them behind Tennessee if Tennessee can get their act together because they have a little more experience, and I like what Josh Allen has done. I think they've been a good story. They have a decent defense. I don't know that they're on the level with the Chiefs and the Steelers. I would need to see something a little bit more. And I know they have that game coming up with the Steelers. I think that's going to be a good test to see where they're at and what they've got. They've been a good story. They seem like they've got a really good shot at winning their division. I mean, Miami is there, but I think if they keep doing what they're doing, they'll win there and they'll be a decent seed. I can see them winning in the wild card round, but can they take that leap up and match blow for blow with some of the top ones? We need to see maybe a little more consistency because they had a period there where they started playing some stiffer competition and sort of ebbed down. And I think that's got to be the fear in the back of a lot of even fans' minds.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I will say is I was very encouraged by the way they played against Seattle and Arizona, who I think are 2 of the better teams in the NFC. Now they beat Seattle, Arizona. But they lost on a fluke play. I mean,
seeing Patrick Mahomes can do that. I mean, look at what happened to the Raiders. That's somewhat that difference between being a good team and a playoff team. And being a true contender, you can do a lot. I was encouraged by the Buffalo against Arizona, but it does give me pause.
The one thing that doesn't give me pause as much with the Arizona game is they don't have a Hopkins. He can't throw that up to Tyreek Hill. That he could throw it up to Kelsey, but they don't have. I don't think Demarcus Robinson's catching that with the way that Hopkins did. He had the 2 guys all over him. I don't trust many receivers to be able to go up and get that ball like Hopkins did. That's my one big difference on that. Now, Mahomes can still drive down the field in 40 seconds, as we've seen, and beat you in other ways. So I'm not saying that they can't do it, but for me, it was very promising to see them play that way. It does look like their defense has been playing better as well the past couple weeks, which is huge. That was kind of the biggest thing I think that hurt them earlier was their defense wasn't playing as good, and Josh Allen, I felt like, was trying to do too much, and I think that was making him look bad as well. For me, I am picking the Bills to win this game. Dennis has picked the Bills as well. What about you, Matt?
I am also taking the Bills.
All right. Next up, the 3-7 Giants at the 2-7-1 Bengals. For the Giants, we've got Gallman at 23, Ingram at 8. We already kind of talked about this with the Giants and challenging for the NFC East. It does seem like it's going to come down between them and Washington.
They have to come out and They have to come out, in my opinion, and make a strong statement in this game because you're talking about a Bengals team that is very shorthanded and was demoralized. You have to come out and start winning the games you're supposed to win and look like a competent team. They haven't always looked like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those games you have to win. This is that game that, this is a team you should beat on paper and in real life. You have to come out and beat them if you want to try and win this division. On the Bengals side, we've got Gio coming in at 22, who is dealing with his own concussion issues. We do not know for sure if he will be able to play. And then Tyler
Are we end up, what are lineups going to look like this week? We were so excited because every team's playing.
Yeah.
Now am I going to regret that I didn't play Duke Johnson even more?
Oh, I know. I was looking at mine. I had in one of mine, I had Brandon Cooks, and I sat him because I had what I thought was going to be a better lineup. Like I went, who did I put in over him? I thought someone I thought I had Chark in. I started Allen Robinson, Deontay Johnson, Michael Pittman, and then I had Jonathan Taylor and Giovanni Bernard.
Bumping or forcing the Ravens to forfeit, and you lose that game, like.
Oh, I know. I don't even know. It's Jalen Reagor who's going to be replacing Deontay Johnson now because I lost out on Brandon Cooks. Like, that's the worst part about this.
That could be worse, though. Reagor against Seattle might not be terrible.
That may be true. I don't know. With the way Carson Wentz has been playing, I don't think that's great news for Reagor. But, yeah, Gio's the one we have to watch her, though. In concussion protocol, it does seem like they're leaning toward him being okay and being able to play, but that hasn't been confirmed or denied. So we've got to watch. And if Bernard's out, I'm just going to be honest, it's just Boyd for me. I'm not firing up Samaje Perine and hoping that he's going to help me win my Week 12 matchup. I'm sticking with Boyd, but we thought – no, go ahead.
I mean, the sad thing, Higgins had looked good, but I'm with you. We're fading him out. AJ Green, you're fading out. Sample had a one-game sample size where you got excited, and that's been it. It's not great.
No, not at all. So we all thought that there was a likelihood that hang on. No, there's something else. Is the biggest thing can help blah 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 blah. Okay, gotcha. That's nothing, not big news. Just that Joe Mixon's likely not coming back anytime soon, which we kind of talked about last week anyways.
Why would you waste? Yeah. Obviously, their line's still not very good, which was the problem for Joe Burrow. If you think Mixon's your future, which you invested in, I would hold Mixon out and hope to come back together.
He's not coming back. From what I'm reading here, they sent him to the IR to shut him down. Hopefully to allow his foot to heal surgery may be the only option. That he's not coming back. He's done for the year, was what I'm reading from that statement right there. So,
which, I mean, makes the most sense for everything. Yeah. Poor Dennis.
Okay. So anyways, Brandon Allen, though, who we saw, I can't say much about him. He beat the Browns last year, so that's the awesome part about that. So Brandon Allen is starting in Cincinnati this week. We thought it might be Ryan Finley. Are you at all, does that change anything for you, again, outside of really just starting Boyd?
Ryan Finley was pretty bad last year, and he was pretty bad coming in relief. It's still a mild surprise because he was, a draft pick, that they're trying. I would get that if they were trying to see what they have, but maybe they've seen enough of what they have, which makes you wonder, is he even worth keeping as a backup at this point in time? If you're not happy, I mean, he's saying Brandon Allen's going because of his time with the Rams and familiarity with the system. Okay, I saw Brandon Allen last year with Denver. He was okay. I'm not expecting a lot from this Bengals offense. I think they're probably going to be deflated because of what happened to Burrow anyway. That seemed to let the air out of the sails last week. I don't know what it's going to do this week. It's kind of disappointing because record aside, they were actually a decent team to watch, especially in the passing game. We had seen some good things with Higgins. Boyd was coming on, even AJ Green at times, and I just don't expect. I think this is going to be a borderline horrific game to watch.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it when the Burrow injury happened. For me, it ended up coming down to now just Boyd. I think this kills T. Higgins' value. I mean, I wish it wouldn't because he looked like a guy that, again, you scooped off the waiver wire that could help you win with the way he was playing and putting up points. I think it's just Tyler Boyd now. And with that being said, I am taking the Giants to win this game. So is Dennis. Who are you taking, Matt?
definitely the Giants.
Man, we are all on the same team today. Not a whole lot of controversy here.
These aren't a whole lot of super
Sure.
competitive looking
Very
games so far.
All right, next up, the 7-3 Cleveland Browns at the 1-9 Jacksonville Jaguars. For the Browns here, we have Chubb at 4 and Hunt at 14. Cleveland quietly putting together a win putting it together with a nice schedule. Are they a lock for the playoffs behind Chubb and Hunt?
I think so. I think they have a pretty decent schedule, and they've really got that running game going. Barring I think we saw their struggles came when Chubb got hurt.
Yeah,
and they couldn't rely. But with those two guys really powering it, they haven't missed OBJ as much as we thought they might because they've been able to lean on the run game. I think you'd miss that if you got hurt. And we're coming into the time of the season where you really want the power running game because of the bad weather. I mean, the last 3 weeks it's been perfect. They've had terrible weather in Cleveland, and they've been able to just massacre people by running all over them. So you got to be pretty excited.
I am. Again, I mentioned it the other day. I think it was on Tuesday the early Tuesday show. We had a Browns fan in here talking about that. This feels like a trap game to me, though. This feels like that game we should win. The Browns historically have never played good against Jacksonville in Jacksonville. They just always seem to lose that game. So I am a little bit worried about it. We lost Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett. We've got 5 other players that went on the COVID IR the other day because they've had a little bit of an outbreak there in Cleveland. It helps that Chark is out for the Jags. They've got Mike Glennon starting. So it's a game the Browns should win. And if they want to make the playoffs, again, just like we talked about with the Giants a minute ago, the Browns have to win this game. This is a winnable game on their schedule. They need to go out there and win it. I do think that they will. That's who I'm going to pick because I believe in Stefanski and what he's been doing with this team. But I don't think it's going to be a blowout for Cleveland. I think it's still going to be a close game here. For Jacksonville, the only guy we felt comfortable starting even before the Chark injury was James Robinson at 10. What are you expecting now from Mike Glennon with Chark and now Conley as well being ruled out?
Not much. It's really unfortunate because I love Robinson, but the strength of Cleveland's defense had been kind of against the run up front. Yeah. I know they're missing some pass rushers and some people up front because of COVID too. But I think they're going to have to lean on Robinson even more. Isn't Laviska Shenault still injured too?
I will look. I don't know. I know for sure Keelan Cole was like the guy everybody was talking about. Let's see here on Shenault.
Yeah, well, if Conley's gone, Westbrook we know is already on IR. If Chark is gone,
questionable with a hamstring injury. Is Shenault?
Yeah, so that's kind of a lot of pressure. Jacksonville hasn't looked very good. I'm sure they're going to try to go it down. Might be a sneaky Tyler Eifert game.
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland was susceptible to the tight ends earlier in the year. Might be the only pass story they had.
Tyler Eifert, shockingly, has been the healthiest member of the receiving corps for the Jaguars.
Yeah, well, maybe it's just that Cincinnati medical room like we talked about last week or Tuesday. I keep saying last week. It feels like a whole different week with the way this week is played out. But, I'm taking Cleveland, as is Dennis. What about yourself?
As am I.
All right. So the 7-3 Titans versus the 7-3 Colts. Massive game for these two teams here. We have Henry coming in at 5, A.J. Brown at 11, and Jonnu Smith at 9. What do the Titans need to do to beat the Colts this time?
I mean, play better. They were that first game was a Thursday night game, and it seemed like they were up and in a decent position, and they just fell apart. That was a game where they couldn't get a lot of passing going. I think they need to be able to throw the ball a little more effectively, maybe use Corey Davis. That was the one game that we've seen Davis play this year where he goose-egged. Was just they couldn't get the ball to him. They barely got the ball to Brown and Henry and Smith. So I think they've got to get their offense going like we've seen it going in a few of these games. If they get bottled up and they can't get things going, I think that's where they're going to run into a hard time because their defense isn't as dominant as it has been in years past.
Yeah, and I mean, I know Brown, we kind of mentioned it again on Tuesday. This was the game where he had the drop touchdown pass as well and the drop deep pass, so he could have had a much better game. Jonnu, we'll see if he's okay. He injured that ankle again last week, and I know they're saying that he's been practicing and is likely going to play, but as I've mentioned multiple weeks now, they keep using it more in the blocking game. It seems like they're using Ferkser more in the receiving game. Jonnu's is very touchdown dependent for me, so you almost have to get that touchdown for him to come through for you. On Indy's side, Taylor coming in at 17 and Pittman at 24. Taylor obviously started to come on last week after everybody started Nyheim Hines because that was the report that Hines was going to get all the carries. Do you think that he can keep it going this week?
I hope so. I mean, the last game against Tennessee wasn't very good for Jonathan Taylor either. 7 carries for 12 yards. I think that was the one where Hines ended up exploding.
Yep. Yeah, he got 3 touchdowns, I believe.
Yeah, so I liked what I saw last week. It seemed like that was closer to what we had expected we might see from him with this team. It's just, do you trust the player rotations and play calling for the Colts? I think if they get up and they're dominating the game, or it's really close and they're trying to keep it close, you'll see more Taylor. But if they're trying to go out there and get going, Hines seems to be the guy. You know, he's obviously been much more likely to be the bigger passing threat, even though Taylor hasn't looked bad when he's had the ball thrown to him. It just seems to be kind of the roles they're sliding into.
Yeah, I am honestly worried about this game because I'm not sure if Indy wins this. And so I think that's what they have to be doing for Taylor to get more and more work, is be leading and him getting the ball. You know, my biggest thing, and that I argued, is why the whole Marlon Mack thing kept coming into discussion earlier in the year, is that Taylor is a volume back. He needs that to kind of get that momentum going, kind of like Nick Chubb in Cleveland. And I think that was the biggest problem. Everybody kept talking about, well, Taylor wasn't running that well. Well, they really given him like 2 carries and then nothing for a quarter and a half and then 2 carries. We saw it last week. He didn't start out good, but then after he started getting carries and more carries, he really started getting it, hitting the holes and everything. He's a back that kind of wears you down. I don't know if he gets that this week. I just don't. And so if Tennessee ends up jumping up on him, I think that it's going to be Hines going back out there. So we have him at 17. So for me, that's a flex play. And that's where I'm playing him right now. Actually, I have to play him as an RB2 because I lost Swift, obviously, with the concussion yesterday. But it's one of those things where, would I be surprised if he put up another 20 points like last week or whatever it was, 13, 15 points? No. But would I be surprised if he puts up another 2? No. Like his variance and outcomes is ridiculous right now. I hope that they continue to give him the ball, but I don't think that they will, because I'm going Tennessee. I think Tennessee ends up coming back and winning this game. And so if that's what I think the game script points more to this being a Hines game with the Colts being down. Dennis is picking the Colts. Who are you taking?
I'm taking Tennessee. But so here's an interesting quandary that I'm facing. I'd be curious your thoughts. I have two receiver spots and a flex that I have to choose between. For running backs, I played Gibson, which was good, and I decided I was going to play Davis, Mike Davis. But I have Tyler Boyd, AJ Brown, Jonathan Taylor, Michael Thomas, and Chris Godwin to choose from but right now I'm thinking of taking Boyd out just because I don't trust Brandon Allen, and probably sitting Taylor and playing Godwin, Michael Thomas, and AJ Brown. But I don't know if I feel great about it.
That's probably where I go. I mean, we saw Thomas and Hill had that nice connection, and then my thing
I am playing Taysom Hill as my quarterback, so I want that matchup.
The one thing I think works in Godwin's favor is I do think that while the Bucs haven't looked great the past couple of weeks, I do believe that Tom Brady tends to play up for these big games with them going up against the Chiefs. I don't expect them to get blitzed like New Orleans did to them, because I don't think the Chiefs defense is quite as good as the Saints. So I think that they will be passing the ball a lot, and we've seen that secondary can be had. So I'd go Godwin. I think I'd try to find a way to get Godwin in there. So I would sit Taylor. Just because I think you could say the same thing about Godwin, though. You really could. So that's where I don't.
Well, I forgot I have Michael Pittman too, and
I might go Pittman. I got Pittman high in my ranks this week. I was kind of surprised he only came. What did he come in for? Ours 24. See, the one thing that worries me about Pittman is he had the big game against Tennessee, but that was because of one big play. He got that big touchdown play. Outside of that, he didn't do much against.
Well, it's the same last. the same last week. He had a huge touchdown play, but he had 3 receptions. He only had 3 targets. That kind of
let's see. There we go. I was trying to pull up my rankings really quick. Where do I have him? I have him at 12 this week, so I'm high on him. I mean, he's getting targeted more than Hilton. I think he's kind of become the one for Phillip Rivers, and the one thing we can say is Tennessee's secondary is pretty bad too. So I might go Pittman, but I've been higher on him the past couple weeks than some have been. So. All right, next up, we've got the 6-4 Dolphins at the 0-10 Jets. For the Dolphins, Parker coming in at 26 and Gesicki at 12. If Tua plays, which it looks like he's going to, but he is dealing with the thumb injury, do you expect him to bounce back this week?
I think he'll look a little better. I mean, the Jets don't have a lot going for him, so I think he will look a little better. I still am a little bit surprised that they're saying it was just for performance, because he was banged up coming into that game. He looked like he got hurt right before they took him out, and he still looks like he's hurt. It's interesting that they're standing by he was removed for performance reasons.
Yeah. I don't think that I can't imagine they pull him again if he starts to play bad. I don't think he'll play bad, but I understand that they're trying to make the playoffs for the first time, and I mean, it actually hasn't been that long, because Ryan Tannehill did take him to the playoffs not too long ago before he got hurt. I think it was in week 16 or 17, because he didn't get to start in the playoff game. But I can't imagine they're going to continue to pull him if he starts to struggle. So I think Tua should bounce back fairly well against this bad Jets defense. Obviously, I just mentioned a couple minutes ago as well, Salvon Ahmed is out here. Are you firing up Breida, or could I interest you in a little bit of a sexier pick, in my opinion, the running back out of Navy, Malcolm Perry, who's also a / wide receiver as well.
I was going to say, I thought they were playing him at wide receiver.
He plays both. He was a running back in college, and he can play both. He's very much like Antonio Gibson. Not talked about as much as I think he was a 7th-round pick by the Dolphins, where obviously Antonio Gibson was the 2nd or 3rd, whatever the Washington picked him at.
They used Breida quite a bit last week. I would expect him and Patrick Laird probably to be the guys that split the rushing game work there. If they don't get Gaskin, that's the interesting one, because he was eligible to come back this week, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't seem like they were going to, but now with Ahmed gone, you got to wonder, like, just about the time you pick up Breida or you slot in Malcolm Perry is the time that they activate Gaskin. And you're like, well, that happened.
Well, so that's going to be the curious thing, because I did see when obviously the Ahmed news came out, there was I guess someone had talked to Brian Flores about it, and they were saying they don't know his status right now. Like, they'd like to activate him, but they don't know if he's going to be ready to go. So that's something you need to watch. If Gaskin's good to go, I'm firing him up. I mean, he was good, obviously, before he got injured, but I'd be hesitant to. I don't know about Breida. I know they were using him, but I don't know how.
The way it's tracking with all these injuries and stuff, it could end up being a rough position this week.
Oh yeah, exactly. So I mean, Perry's a guy that we've seen. I mean, he scored a touchdown last week. Did he? I think he might have scored. He might have already scored a couple touchdowns right now. Let's see here. Sorry, I had to. Nope, never mind. He did not. He's only gotten 3 points the past couple of weeks. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I liked him coming out of Navy, but I don't know if Matt Breida is gone and you're struggling with injuries and possible cancellations of games or forfeiture of games like we're looking at with possibly Pittsburgh and Baltimore, you might not be able to do much better. On the Jet side here, we've got Gore coming in at 35, Crowder at 47. I mean, Sam Darnold's going to be back. Are you playing anybody on the Jets?
No.
Yeah.
Not if I can avoid it. I mean, the only one we had been interested in was Pirine, and he was supposed to get a bigger workload, scored a touchdown, got knocked out. Now he's on IR. I don't even think he's going to come back this season. One of those receivers will probably have a decent game. Good luck picking. Crowder possibly is more interesting because he and Sam, when he's played with Sam Darnold, has seemed to be better. But
yeah,
the Jets are messing. The Dolphins have a pretty decent defense.
Yep. Yeah, I'm avoiding everybody. I don't. It's not worth it. And I am taking the Dolphins, as is Dennis. I assume you're not taking the Jets. Yeah.
No,
so that's what I figured. All right, 4-7 Panthers at the 4-6 Vikings. We've got Mike Davis coming in at 12, DJ Moore 17, Robbie Anderson 25, Curtis Samuel 37. Will the passing game success continue this week for the Panthers?
Yeah, Minnesota not known for their passing defense prowess. I would say it's a good week to fire it up. Looks like Teddy's going to be back, but even if he's not, PJ Walker looked pretty good.
Yeah, I'm firing up all three if I can. I mean, I mentioned it last week. I think for me, at least, Curtis Samuel is moving past Robbie Anderson. I'm firing up all three of them, and even Mike Davis. Even though that Minnesota defense has been better against the run, Davis does enough in the receiving game. I think this is actually going to be a good game for fantasy players. Not necessarily a good NFL game, but a good overall game fantasy-wise. On Minnesota side, Dalvin Cook coming in at 1 and Justin Jefferson at 10. With no Thielen right now, are we expecting a heavy dose of Dalvin Cook?
Yeah, and I don't think Thielen can come back, right? Because he actually had a positive test.
Well, it was a positive and then a negative, so I don't know how that works. I don't know if that counts then as a positive, so now you have to go 5 straight days again, or if it was because it was a positive and then a negative.
If you got a positive test, you had to go 10 days.
I don't know. See, that's what I don't know, because they said they tested him twice. One was a positive, one was a negative. So I don't know which one they're going off of. I've pulled him out of all of my lineups just to be on the safe side, because I don't know what they're going to do with them. But I wouldn't be surprised if come Sunday morning we find out Adam Thielen's tested negative 5 times, whatever they're playing him. So I just don't know. I've pulled him just to be safe.
Carolina had been susceptible to the run anyway, and that's really where Minnesota's at its best. So I would expect Dalvin Cook's going to have a pretty huge day. And then, their pass defense hasn't been incredible. So I think Jefferson will be okay too.
Yeah, I think Jefferson will be all right, but I'm definitely leaning Dalvin Cook. I'm trying to pull up who I picked in this game because now I can't remember and I accidentally closed it out. Dennis picked the Panthers. Who did you take?
I took the Panthers as well.
And I took the Vikings, so we'll see how that works out for me. Next up, the 6-4 Cardinals at the 4-6 Patriots. We've got Murray coming in at 3, Kenyon Drake 21. Oh, there we go. Devontae Adams is practicing right now, so that's good news for us Adams guys who roster Adams, because there was a lot of concern he may not play. Drake at 21, Hopkins at 2, Christian Kirk at 32. No Fitzgerald this week. He unfortunately tested positive for COVID. Can the Cardinals get a big win on the road against the Patriots?
Yeah, and I think this is the evolution we need to see for them to really solidify themselves as a playoff team. You got to win games you should be able to win, and you got to get some kind of signature road wins, because we saw earlier in the season they were looking pretty good and they went out on the road in games so you thought they should win and it didn't happen. That should happen again. New England has been fading pretty hard. If Arizona doesn't win here, I think that really has to give us a moment of pause thinking about them as trying to be a playoff team.
I know we all have Hopkins high. I'm a little worried that he's I don't want to say bust, but I'm a little worried he's not going to have a good game. Yeah, well, so here's the thing, because I'm going to be honest. Obviously, I traded him earlier. We've talked about it, and I didn't really think much about it. And then someone brought up to me, they're like, dude, it was such a great idea for you to trade him when you did. And I was like, I don't understand. I was just trying to move him because I wanted to get some extra pieces back. And then they brought up his schedule. Just let me read his schedule to you really quick, because he has Gilmore this week. Then he has Ramsey and the Rams next week, who we already saw pretty much shut him down. Then he gets the Giants, who the guy's name is jumping out of my head, Bradbury, who shut down some of the better wide receivers as well. Then he gets the Eagles and Darius Slay. Then he gets the 49ers and then the Rams again. So he actually has a pretty tough schedule. Now, again, it's DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not saying he's going to put up 2 points every single week. He's a guy who he will make your day with a touchdown, obviously, but I'm wondering if maybe we don't see those like 20, 30-point outburst games that we saw earlier in the season now going on down the stretch. He's not a guy you can bench, but I'm a little worried about him maybe coming in at 2. That was I saw that and I ranked him there too. And I'm going to be honest, when we redo our rankings, I'm going to do mine probably tonight and watching some of the college games. I think I'm going to drop him down in my rankings just a little bit, because I do think today or this Sunday's matchup against Gilmore is not easy. I don't know if I'd have him quite that high up there, especially with the way that Kirk has come on as well. Like Murray has now got another guy he can throw the ball to with the way Kirk has come on. Go ahead.
But reading that schedule also is even more reason the Cardinals need to win this game.
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah.
two of the Rams in there.
Yeah.
The Eagles game, you know.
I think the Eagles-Giants are probably both winnable, but 49ers, I mean, that's the thing. With divisional games, you can never be.
The
Divisional
Eagles
games
and
are
the
always
Giants
tough.
are teams that are going to be pushing for the playoffs too. So,
Oh, yeah.
they've got to win some of these games if they want to solidify themselves.
On New England's side, we have Cam coming in at 12 and Harris at 25. The Patriots are currently the 11th seed in the AFC right now. Can they get back into the playoff race?
I'm going to say no. They're actually sitting behind Denver, and I think Denver kind of played themselves out of it. I think New England, that win against Baltimore was promising when they came out last week and lost in Houston. I think that ended it for them.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've kind of, me and you were not really on the Patriots bandwagon to begin with. I know Dennis was. I don't see them coming back though. I think I had him at 6 and something. So
6 and
I
10,
only had him,
probably.
Yeah, so I only had him winning 2 more games. So
yeah, they're tracking toward a 6 and 10, maybe 7 and 9.
Yeah.
That's not going to be anywhere near good enough.
All right, I am taking the Cardinals to get this one. So is Dennis. What about yourself?
I'm also taking the Cardinals.
All right. Now, for this game, we still don't know if this game is going to be played at the moment, but as of right now, it is scheduled for 1:00 Sunday.
Let me ask you, if it
Yes.
doesn't go ahead, do they add an 18th regular season week, or do they force a forfeit here? Because they already know in Baltimore's case there was malfeasance.
Yes. I don't know. I would think that they're going to do everything they can to not forfeit the game because of what it causes the players, because it's also going to screw the Steelers players and the fact that they don't get paid if they forfeit this game. Neither team gets paid regardless of who gets forfeited. That's the bad thing about the new contract that they signed because of the COVID season. Yeah. If they forfeit, Baltimore doesn't get paid and neither does Pittsburgh. So I kind of feel like they're going to do everything they can to get this game played. Obviously, there was a lot of talk that they may try and do what they did with Buffalo and move this to a Tuesday, but then you're readjusting an entire schedule because Baltimore plays Thursday. So we'll see what happens. I do think they're going to just make Baltimore play Sunday, regardless of who they have out, because, and in fairness, all the Steelers players have been pointing this out. They made San Francisco do this and didn't move back the game at all. Back, what was that, 4 or 5 weeks ago, where they had to throw out their C team. Yeah, they had to throw out their C team, and they got destroyed, and they still made them do it. So I don't understand why they're not letting Baltimore do this. I think,
especially in a case where it was your own.
Yes, exactly.
They've already basically come out and said, yeah, this was an idiot that is part of our organization caused all this.
And the thing that I really don't like is I feel like Harbaugh is trying to force his hand with the NFL and be like, hey, we're shutting down till Monday, which obviously they play Sunday. So I wonder if that's like him saying, hey, we're not going to be able to do anything, so you're going to have to do something with this game. I think that they should be forced to play. I really do. I don't care how bad the team is you threw out there. This is on you for what you did. Because it's not fair to the Pittsburgh team to now not be able to be paid because you guys did something stupid.
And did you see the crap that got floated last night too about are they going to adjust week 13 and put Steelers Washington on Thursday night and move Baltimore Dallas to Sunday?
Yeah.
You can't keep screwing Pittsburgh who has done nothing. Yeah. Pittsburgh got screwed in week 4. Pittsburgh got screwed. And to find out this week, the Mike Tomlin had already told him, hey, we're going to get our bye week this week after we play Thursday night. I don't want to see you till Wednesday. And now that kind of went out the window.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not the biggest Steelers fan, and even I'm with you. They've been getting hosed with some of this COVID stuff, and it isn't fair to them. So at this point, I think Baltimore is just going to have to suck it up. And the one thing I'm going to hate, too, is I can't wait. Because if they do play this game, they're likely going to get destroyed. And then the Ratbirds are going to come out and crying, woe is me. It's not fair. We'd be still in the play. Because this is a huge game. If they lose this game, which I don't see any way that they do, with all these players being out, their playoff chances are severely hurt. Especially with because if they keep the game on Thursday, I don't think Lamar can play Thursday either.
No,
because
he can't.
So
he would be out for 2 games.
Let's go! I love it.
There's a chance that they can't. No, I get it. There's a chance they don't actually even beat the Cowboys because no guarantee Dobbins comes back. They're also missing quite a few names on defense. Calais Campbell. They're missing some offensive linemen. I mean, they're missing a lot of people, and they may not have reached the bottom yet.
I should say, I don't mean let's go as in him testing positive for COVID. I do hope that he is okay. I don't want any health issues to happen to any of these players. I mean, let's go in because if they continue losing, my Browns have a better chance of making the playoffs. That's the only thing I meant by that. I know some people will take that probably.
But I mean, that was the big blow from where he tested positive.
Yeah.
Was you're at least 10 days and
yep.
No chance.
Yeah, that is going to be huge. So we do have Edwards coming in at 19 and Andrews at 3. It will be RG3 as the quarterback, Trace McSorley as the backup.
Andrews down a little bit though.
Yeah, I probably will too.
No, McSorley's on COVID.
They said
too.
that he could come back though because he's been on there for a couple weeks now. So I believe what they were saying is he'll be elevated in time to be the backup if needed. With no Jackson, no Dobbins, no Ingram, no Campbell. I mean, again, you mentioned they've gotten killed with this. And again, their own doing. We talked about this. I think it may have been on or off air. I don't remember the other day that, their staffer had symptoms, showed up to the facility, was walking around into different rooms of the football team. No mask on, nothing. That's on them. Dude should have not even been allowed to get into the building showing symptoms. So, I mean, again, I'll point this out because I brought this up about Clemson on the Devi Debate podcast that really pissed me off about Dabo Swinney complaining about this the way John Harbaugh did. It's like, oh, Florida State canceled our game. Woe is me and everything. No. You guys had a backup offensive lineman test positive, and you decided to let him fly on the plane with you to Florida State and practice, and was going to be at the game, who had already tested positive for COVID. If I'm Florida State, I don't want to play you either because I don't know now how many players might have COVID due to a backup offensive lineman that you don't even need being there. Send the dude home. Cleveland did that with Myles Garrett, who is arguably an MVP discussion, in my opinion, and the defensive player of the year. Dude said that he just didn't feel good. Stay home. Don't show up to the place. And then he didn't test positive till 4 days later, so they didn't even know he had COVID. If you handle it the right way, you're going to help yourself. In my opinion, like Cleveland has, in my opinion, like a lot of these franchises have. Baltimore did this to themselves. I don't feel bad for them one bit. I really don't. And it has nothing to do with the rivalry part of it. On Pittsburgh's side, again, if they do play, we have Ben coming in at 8, Connor 11, Deontay at 12, Juju 31, Claypool 21, and Eric Ebron 13. The Steelers seem frustrated, which I think is a good thing. I honestly think this is going to be a blowout. I think Pittsburgh is going to take them behind the woodshed like they did Tennessee back when Tennessee kind of screwed them. It's going to be great for us in fantasy, but not great if you're a Baltimore Ravens fan.
Yeah, that's kind of the impression I was getting too, the kind of frustration, anger boiling over. When we did the Thanksgiving preview, I mentioned I thought Juju may end up not playing because he's been banged up. He was one of the first people to comment. I now think the other way. He is definitely playing, and he's going to be like, I'm ready.
Wow. So we already talked about this, and again, it's still early. It's Friday. Anthony Lynn came out and said that there's a good chance that Austin Eckler plays Sunday versus the Bills. So there we go. Austin Eckler may be back Sunday. Just pay attention to it. Again, I don't know. Again, it's Friday. He could just be saying that. We'll see what happens.
Well, then you see Balazs maybe is not tracking to play, and Anthony Lynn's like, I can't go into the game with Joshua Kelly.
They said the other day he was doubtful again. I'm really hoping that the dude I'm playing in my Dynasty League who believes Twitter is the worst thing in the world keeps Balazs in his lineup. I hope they don't rule him out till late Sunday morning and he forgets to switch him out. All right. I am taking, though, Pittsburgh to win this game, as is Dennis.
Yes.
What about you, Matt? Yeah. All right. Saints 8-2 at the 4-6 Broncos. We've got Taysom Hill coming in at 9, Kamara at 2, and Michael Thomas at 8. We did see Denver's defense play really good against a surging Miami team last week. How do you think that Hill and this offense will do against Denver this week?
I think they'll be okay. I think they have a pretty good offensive line, and Hill, a little bit of a different kind of quarterback. They have some very dynamic weapons. I think Denver will play them tough, but I think they'll be just fine.
Yeah, I mean, look, I like Tua, but Tua cannot run the way that Hill can. Hill brings a little bit of a different dynamic to that offense, and I'm with you. I think they'll be just fine. The biggest one I think it hurts, and we talked about it on the Tuesday pod, is Kamara. I would like to see how or if they get Kamara more involved in the passing game this week than we saw last week, because I don't think that he finishes his RB2 with just his running back production. I really don't. He looked like one of the best wide receivers in the game playing running back the past couple weeks. Can Taysom Hill still bring that to him? That's going to be what I'm watching in this game. For Denver, we've got Gordon at 29 and Noah Fant at 10. The Saints defense has been hot of late. Do you think they keep it going this week, or can Denver break through?
I do not trust Denver.
Yeah.
Denver playing Atlanta got bottled up, and we saw what the Saints did to Atlanta. So I don't have a lot of high hopes. The Saints defense has really kicked it into high gear the last couple of weeks, and Denver's offense has been very uneven. I hope that they can, get some running game going, but that's actually the hardest thing usually to do against the Saints. Lock's been a little uneven. I think this could end up being a pretty rough game.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I just don't. I don't think that they're going to get blown out, but I do think that they're going to be kind of held in check, especially with the way the New Orleans Saints defense has come on. They have not looked like the fantasy, the fantasy bonanza that they were earlier in the year. They really have kind of locked teams down here. I am taking the Saints to win, as is Dennis. What about yourself?
Yep, I took the Saints.
All right, the 4-6 49ers at the 7-3 Rams. Mostert, who is likely going to play, coming in at 33, and Brandon Ayuk back off of the COVID list as well. Mostert wasn't on the COVID list, but Ayuk was at 35. What do you expect out of Mostert in his return?
I hope he comes back and is running strong. They've needed kind of a little pop in the running game, which you didn't think you would say, but with Mostert, Coleman, and Wilson gone, they weren't getting a ton, and then Hasty got knocked out. I don't think Jerick McKinnon is enough of a running game threat, and I think they really had some of their best offensive momentum when Mostert was there kind of running hard, and McKinnon was there as a complement and doing a lot of passing work. So maybe if they can get those two back working together with a better receiver in Ayuk, we can see a little bit of pop from the 49ers offense. They have Jordan Reed out there too. Maybe make it a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, I'll be excited to see what he does. Obviously, the Rams is not a great team to come back against. They've been pretty good against the run, but he adds a different dynamic that really Jermichael Hasty, I don't even remember who else they've been running out there at the moment, are going to really help them. So
I think it was mostly McKinnon and Juszczyk.
That's right.
A couple of weeks.
Means I got to bump McKinnon out of my lineup too, more than likely. I think I still have him rostered in one. And I like Ayuk. I'll be excited to see him back. He's a guy that I love the way they use him, whether it's in the running game or passing game. I might actually bump him up just a little bit. Maybe not, because I forgot Rams, and their secondary's actually been pretty good too.
And he'll probably get Jalen Ramsey. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's not going to be great for him. Goff at 16, Woods at 14, Kupp at 16. We've seen them kind of really using these running backs by committee here in Brown, Akers, and Henderson. Which running back for the Rams are we betting on in Week 12?
I'm not betting on any of them right now. There hasn't been enough volume, and there hasn't been enough touches. I mean, you'd have to gamble and hope you have a touchdown. I don't think that's a great bet. It's hard to handicap who would even be the best touchdown. We've seen all three of them used interchangeably in the red zone too. There isn't defined roles. It doesn't seem like, super strong defined roles. So I think that backfield's to stay away for the time being.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I don't really roster any of them anyway, so I'm steering clear of all three. If you had to pick one, who would you play?
Probably still Henderson.
Yeah, that's where I am leaning as well. I am taking the Rams to win this game, as is Dennis. What about yourself?
I also took the Rams.
All right. 9-1 Chiefs at the 7-4 Bucks. We've got Mahomes coming in at 1, CEH 16, Tyreek Hill 5, Travis Kelce at 1. Can the Chiefs keep it going against a decent Buccaneers defense?
I think they will. May not be incredible heights, but they face some decent defenses. It's very hard to bottle up everyone that they have. I mean, even last week we finally saw Le'Veon Bell get into the end zone for the first time. It's not even just their first wave. They have other waves they can put in. It looks like Watkins might be back this week too, which just gives them another option. And we've seen, the Bucs defense has been decent, but you can score against them. We saw what Woods and Kupp did on Monday night. I like Patrick Mahomes just a little bit more than Jared Goff.
Only a little bit. I think I like him a lot more than Goff. So, maybe we may vary on that a little bit. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't. We've only really seen one defense really kind of stymie this offense, and that was the Raiders. And so I haven't seen anybody else really play the Chiefs that way. I think that they're going to be fine. Whether it's, I'm with you. I don't know if everybody goes off in this game, but I would think if it's going to be CEH and Hill, or it's going to be Kelce and Hill, or it's going to be Kelce and CEH. I don't know if all of them go off, but two of them will for sure. And you have to just kind of play all of them because KC is just, with that dude back there at quarterback, there's just no telling what that team can do offensively. You can't sit any of them. On Tampa Bay's side, we've got Brady coming in at 13, Godwin at 19, Evans at 20, and Gronk at 6. What are you expecting out of the Buccaneers? I mentioned earlier, really seems like these are the games that Brady really kind of comes up for. Chiefs defense is not quite as good as it was earlier in the year. They can be beats on the ground, in the air. Not that they have any really good running backs in Tampa Bay, but what are you expecting from this offense?
Yeah, see, that's the unfortunate thing. The best formula that we've seen to kind of hold Kansas City in check and give yourself a chance is to control the ball and power running game, which is not the strength of Tampa Bay. In fact, their running game is seemingly regressed. If they committed to Ronald Jones, maybe they could do that. The other thing you can try to do is make it a track meet, and that seems to be more likely what we're going to see Tampa Bay try to do. And I think that's where you get in trouble because Tampa Bay has a lot of weapons. They can score a lot of points, but they've also seemed prone to mistakes. Brady has not seemed like the, uber ball protector that we've seen in the past. Even in that game on Monday night, he made some confounding throws he just maybe didn't see or wasn't expecting. I don't know if they're totally in rhythm with all these receivers. So Tampa Bay would be better served trying to play defense and trying to grind it out on the ground, but that's not really their strength, and I don't see them being able to do that, in which case you basically have to try to outscore them, which we saw the Raiders try that on Sunday.
Yeah. It almost worked out.
It almost, but that's the thing. If you leave any time left,
can't even leave 2 seconds. You've got it.
You basically have to be the last one with the ball.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That'll be the big thing is that we've seen Ronald Jones have a couple good games. Can they get him going against this defense and help them kind of keep Mahomes off the field? I don't know. I'm going Chiefs because I don't see it happening. I think Tampa Bay will keep it competitive, but I'm taking the Chiefs. Dennis took the Bucks. Who are you taking?
I'm taking the Chiefs.
Really quick. So Giovanni Bernard is questionable for Sunday's game against the Giants. According to Team's Friday's injury report, Bengals coach Zach Taylor said he felt good about Bernard's chances to play this weekend, even though he was out Wednesday because of the concussion. So things looking up for Giovanni Bernard at the moment. Sunday night game, the 5-5 Bears versus 7-3 Packers. We've got David Montgomery coming in at 16, Allen Robinson coming in at 15, and Jimmy Graham coming in at 21. Looks like Mitch will be back. And no, Nick Foles is trending toward playing. Actually, they said that he is likely going to be good. That was there was a lot of talk. Mitch will play if Foles is out, but Nick Foles had. Hang on.
Because he didn't practice at all on Wednesday and Thursday, so it looked like he was trending toward missing.
Okay, no, you're right. I'm sorry. I was misreading. I only read the top part of the tweet. So what this is saying is he is yet to practice this week because of his back.
I thought he hurt his leg or his hip.
Hip. Okay, because of the hip, but all signs point to Mitch Trubisky, who has taken all the reps this week. So Mitch Trubisky will be back in the fold. That sucks for Allen Robinson.
Can it suck more than what we've seen the last couple of times Foles has gone out?
I mean, at least Foles
does
is
it
targeting him a
matter?
lot. No, it doesn't. Allen Robinson's screwed regardless. He probably have a better chance with me out there at quarterback, and I would get killed. So yeah, it's not good. The one thing I will say,
and Mitch was this quarterback.
Yeah.
Mitch doesn't not target him. It just
well, the one thing I'll say, and also because I know the biggest thing we always look at when they're playing the Packers is Jair Alexander, who he'll be back this week as well. But Allen Robinson's actually had his number the past couple of times they've played each other, so I'm not worried about that. We'll see. I mean, again, we have him at 15. I probably wouldn't lower him much more anyways, knowing Mitch is going to be there, but I'm not expecting a huge game from Allen Robinson because he'll likely have Alexander on him most of the time. And whether it's Mitch or Foles, I don't see it being a boost or really even hurt him any. He's just kind of unfortunately screwed with crappy quarterback play.
Yeah. The Bears offense, until further notice, does not impress. And Robinson probably even tougher if he's got Jair Alexander.
Yeah. Just got to hope that they keep losing and they're able to at least draft a decent quarterback. But they'll probably trade up and take, like, I don't even know, someone Brock Purdy out of Iowa State. So
they're kind of in no man's land because they're the 8th seed in the NFC right now.
Yep.
And the teams kind of below them don't seem to be on a super winning track. They're probably going to end up middle of the pack for draft picks.
On Green Bay's side, we've got Rodgers coming in at 7, Jones at 3, and Adams at 1. Or do you expect a big game from Rodgers and the Packers in this one? Bears defense has still been pretty good all year long. The only thing that's really kept them in the playoff race.
Well, and Adams, Jones banged up, MVS banged up. So I actually am now trending toward thinking this could be a tighter game, which might be a bummer because this is our Sunday night football game. It's already a little bit of a bummer seeing the Bears offense, but if the Packers offense is a little bit stymied, my God, I hope Adams plays because you're right. An Achilles injury suffered in practice really doesn't sound that promising for MVS. And so
they just listed him as questionable for the Packers, and they did list Nick Foles as doubtful as well. That just popped up for both of those.
But, without Adams, this offense has not been incredibly impressive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked about it Tuesday. They're saying that he likely will play, that he's leaning toward we just talked about it earlier. I'm sorry. He's practicing right now. So if you're practicing today, I would think you're probably pretty good to go. So that will be huge for them. I am taking the Packers to win this, even if Aaron Jones was out, or I'm sorry, if Adams was out, I'm still taking the Packers to win, and as did Dennis as well. So the Monday night football game, 7-3 Seahawks at the 3-6-1 Eagles. We've got Wilson coming in at 2, Carson 15, Metcalf at 3, and Lockett at 13. Carson's first game back. What are you expecting out of him?
I mean, hopefully, it seemed like they waited to make sure he was going to be healthy and in good shape. So I'm hoping that he comes back and puts up, solid high-end RB2 numbers.
Yeah, I mean, whenever he's out there, they give him the ball. So I'm with you. I think you can expect at least RB2 numbers, if maybe not even a little bit better with the amount of injuries we've seen this week and everything going on. So Carson, if you've got him, you're firing him up. Philly's side, Sanders at 8, Ertz 14, Goddard at 7. Ertz retracting to return. What will this mean for the Philly offense, and can they still make a playoff run here in the NFC East?
They can still make a playoff run. They have the most brutal schedule probably of any of those teams in the division, and they're the ones that have looked the worst. Wentz seemed to be at his best when he was working the tight ends. We saw Richard Rodgers and Goddard kind of have decent days last week. I think Ertz is probably a step over Richard Rodgers, so if you get Ertz and Goddard back, they were talking about even sometimes playing all three of those guys out there now, which makes you kind of wonder what they're thinking about their receivers. Seems like Travis Fulgham has kind of disappeared. We haven't seen a lot of consistency from Rager. They got Alshon Jeffrey back. We haven't called his name. Greg Ward hasn't done much of anything. Seems like they really like the Titans. You're just getting terrible news over there.
This is just horrible. We'll save it for a minute because it's going to be something we'll have to discuss.
I don't think it'll do anything but help to get Ertz back. And maybe the big question is, I think this is a really pivotal game, as we talked about, for Carson Wentz. If he continues to look bad and struggle and they lose, we know that they're already going to be, if they win, if they somehow pull out a win, they're right back in first.
Yeah.
And they're still, they're still going along. But if they lose, they potentially are third in their own division, because we think the Giants might win too. And they still have a brutal schedule, and they might have a lot of questions.
All right, so I am with you. I think that having Ertz back is only really going to help out possibly a guy like Rager. And I'm not still starting Rager, but I'd like to see how this works out. Wentz has always targeted Ertz, so maybe this helps kind of boost Wentz's performance as well. I am taking the Seahawks, as did Dennis. What about yourself?
Yep, Seattle.
All right, so I guess it's good that this news dropped before we closed out the podcast. Ravens-Steelers is being moved to now Tuesday night, so that has already been confirmed. So that's going to obviously not just change up the schedule for this week, but everything next week. Again, as Ravens were supposed to play Dallas Thursday night. There's no way that they play that 2 days after playing the Steelers. So we'll see. Maybe we go back to, again, another Thursday night football game this week, like we saw them do back when I think that game actually happened with the Bills. And was it Bills-Chiefs that they moved?
Yeah, they had no Thursday night game that week.
Yeah, so we could be looking at no Thursday night game for week 13. Again, I mean, at least it looks like this game for sure is going to get played with them moving it to Tuesday night. I would think that's possibly good. So, I mean, you still can play all your Steelers. This will not allow any of the Ravens players to be back. So you're still looking at the same thing we broke down earlier. For commissioners, handle it however you want with everything, because there is still a chance that this could be forfeited. So, I mean.
Might mean Lamar, though, only has to miss one game. That's what happened. Cam Newton, when he got COVID, looked like he was tracking to miss 2 games, and because of postponements, managed to only have to miss 1 game, which worked out better, I guess, for him too. Yeah, a lot of questions, for the league, where they end up. This will have ramifications, like we said, into week 13, because one of their options they had discussed is pulling Pittsburgh and Washington up to Thursday night if Baltimore couldn't play, but that's not going to happen if Pittsburgh's also playing on Tuesday night. And how pissed must the Steelers be?
Oh, I'm sure they are absolutely livid. When did Dobbins and them test positive? Was it Monday?
Yes. So I don't know that they come back for this week, but you have to watch, because, like you said, with Adam Thielen, depends on how these, positives and everything are working. I would say they're probably all still out. Same deal there. Everyone's still going to be out till Tuesday, or out for Tuesday, but it now might make them, whereas we're supposed to have Sunday and then play again the following Thursday, you probably would have seen all of them out. Maybe this gives them a chance to get at least a couple of those pieces back for playing Dallas.
Gotta love it. Got to love it. Yeah, I would honestly think with the way that is, I would think we're moving more toward a no Thursday night game in week 13. I don't think there's any way.
Unless they're gonna jerk 2 other teams around, I don't see how they can do it. And now you're talking about less than a week notice that you would be playing 2 games in 5 days.
Oh, yeah. See, I don't think that they'll be able to. I think because that was the reason why they had the Thursday night game the way they had it, was because you had Dallas and Baltimore both playing. Technically, were supposed to play last night, so they still had their full week's rest going into this week. I'm trying to see who. So,
I mean, if you have a pre-scheduled Thursday night game, every team usually has to play one game on short rest, but I don't know.
Nope. Can't do that. I was going to say Washington Steelers but no, Steelers are going to be playing Tuesday night.
Well, that's why they had talked about that as a potential.
Jeez, man. Yeah.
Potential pull-up, which I thought would have been unkind to the Steelers, because you're talking about, because the Steelers didn't end up playing on Thursday. So if you're looking at the schedule, they will have a couple teams out on bye. I don't know who Houston plays in week 13.
They play the Titans. No, they play a division game. I can't remember. Colts. That was who else I was looking at. I don't know if they do that. Yeah, I would think it's.
I really think that they end up just with no no Thursday game, which is unfortunate because I think we're coming almost to the end of the Thursday night
I think they
schedule.
go to 15, isn't it? Week 4. It's usually week 14 or 15 because the last couple of weeks they don't have Thursday night football. So
14 shows a Thursday game. Let's see about 15 because 15 they have a bunch of Saturday games. So I bet
because of Christmas.
No, so week 15 does have a Thursday night game, the Chargers and the Raiders. So they still have a couple of weeks of Thursday night games left, but it's schedule roulette. And I do think you have to watch though, because so many people are going to have Steelers in their lineup. If it gets closer and the Ravens continuously don't have tests or don't have, continue to have positive tests, I don't know that you can guarantee even on a Tuesday that they play it. And once you get past Monday night, you don't have options. Are we going to be in a situation where we have to have people designated for replacements again? As commissioners, I know how fun that's been.
Yeah, that's why you've got to address it today if you're a commissioner. I mean, I don't think you can change it, though. Like, I've done that in my leagues where I've said, hey, if the Tuesday night game again, we were lucky that it's only happened the one time. But I've said, hey, if this happens, you need to designate your players by this time, and I'll switch them in if the game gets postponed or forfeited. And I'll do the same thing again because it sucks again. I mean, me and you commission a bunch of leagues. It's a lot of work to go in and do, but it's a weird year. We've got to try and give everybody a fair shot at this, and that's probably the only way to do it. But if you've been saying all year, no, I'm in some leagues where the commissioners have said no. They're like, you treat that as a player who's going in with an injury, and you don't know if they're going to play or not. It's the risk you've got to take. I would think that it's not going to be forfeited with them pushing it to Tuesday, and they've already said that the Ravens won't be in the facility at all, but that also doesn't mean some of the players might not have, through contract tracing, whatever, possibly got COVID and haven't tested positive yet because they still have to get tested the next couple of days. So it's going to be a cluster to begin with. Just, hope for the best. Commissioners, if whatever commissioners are listening, again, address it today because we just got the news. Address it now so that your team or your league knows what's going to happen. And it's a horrible way to end out a podcast, but me and Matt will be back on Monday. Good luck to everybody this week as we're 1 week away from the end of the fantasy regular season. Me and Matt will be back again on Monday to recap all these games and hopefully preview another football game, I guess. So
yeah, I guess the Steelers and the Ravens just want to see how many times we can preview their game.
Yeah.
Because we've done it twice now.
Yeah.
And for sure it's going to happen again on Tuesday.
Yeah, because there's going to be all kinds of issues. I'm sure there's going to be more players either out or whatever, so we're going to have to talk about it probably on Monday and Tuesday, so it's going to be wonderful.
I think you just want to spend a lot of time thinking about the Steelers and the Ravens.
I really don't. Good luck to everybody, and me and Matt will be back again on Monday.